This top one is a normal, healthy blood vessel. See, smooth sailing.
Traffic moving well on the highway.
Absolutely. This vessel demonstrates high blood pressure, and you can see it's clearly distressed. There's plaque within the wall, so it's a narrowed space, and also the walls are having a hard time. They're stiff, they're hardened, and they're contracting, but they're exerting a lot of energy. And the other thing is, if this guy who owns, or gal, who owns this vessel takes in a lot of salt, salt draws in water, increases the volume, which will then increase the blood pressure even further.
Diet, exercise, all good things. Talk about some of the foods that actually help you manage your blood pressure. The first one people are going to like the sound of.
Cocoa powder. So everybody seems to know the virtues of dark chocolate, but the real hero is the cocoa powder that's within the dark chocolate, because that's where all the flavonols are housed, and that's what helps to keep our blood vessels healthy and elastic. So what I'm telling people is to pick up some cocoa powder. You could put it in smoothies, you could put it in oatmeal, you could also put a little bit in your morning coffee, and it's really delicious, healthy for your blood vessels.
I'm one of these weird kids. I love spinach from the very young age. You say this is another key food.
It's a triple threat. It has potassium, magnesium, and folate. And what potassium does, it's sort of the anti-sodium. I just said that sodium draws in water. Potassium flushes it out and flushes the sodium out. So instead of lettuce on a sandwich, put spinach leaves. Also, you have a simmering pot of soup on the stove or marinara sauce. Dump those spinach leaves in, stir it around, and it's extra yummy.
It's a great idea. Garlic is another one. Does it have to be raw garlic?
No. It could be powder, it could be minced garlic, roasted garlic. Garlic has two active ingredients. One is called allicin, which keeps the lining of the cells healthy. The other is, believe it or not, there's an active ingredient that acts like an ACE inhibitor, a prescription medication, but there's no side effects. Matt, roasting garlic is one of the most delicious things ever, and it's super easy.
If I've heard Hoda say it once, I've heard her say it 1,000 times. Beans, beans, good for your heart.
Exactly.
And she goes on.
That too. So all beans are great for your heart because they have protein and they have fiber and they have potassium and magnesium. But I am featuring white beans as the superhero here because they have the added benefit of calcium, and calcium helps our blood vessels to contract and dilate. What I do here, this is a little trick. I make a soup, and instead of using cream to thicken it up, I put in a can of white beans, I puree it, and it's delicious.
You can also make a great dip for veggies. And finally, pumpkin. Why?
So pumpkin is loaded with potassium. Remember, P for pumpkin, P for potassium. Flushes out that sodium and fluid. And you can take canned pumpkin puree. It's available year-round. And you can make a nice pumpkin pudding. Or, Matt, what I've done here is it's a great replacement for oil in baked goods. And it's a 1-to-1 ratio, and this recipe is on the website, Little Brownie Bites, with pumpkin and cocoa.
5 great ingredients to help you manage your blood pressure. Joy, as always, thank you very much. For these recipes and more, check out our website, today.com.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.
Welcome to the Nutrition Spot. My name is Giftina Kainga, and so much honored to have Mugambe Cynthia, our senior nutritionist and a dietitian, and also Eddie Zziwa, a nutrition expert. Having a senior nutritionist and a nutrition expert, we cannot go any further besides talking of the nutrition. And tonight on the spot, we're going to look at nutritional anemia in children and in adults. Are you having a child or you're an adult? We're going to focus around children and then adults. And if I talk of the adults, I'm talking of all genders, that is female and male, mothers, husbands. I'm talking about men also. Anyway, I'm saying all this because I want to make men feel that there's so much involved into this. So we're discussing nutritional anemia. And talk of nutritional anemia, anemia is most often a hidden deficiency with overt symptoms. They are a bit like not many symptoms like in other conditions. And we realize that many policymakers often fail to recognize the massive economic costs if it comes to treatment of anemia. And the service providers often also fail to recognize the health consequences that are brought up by anemia. And on a sad note, that our societies often ignorant of the anemia capability to cause permanent consequences on our health. It's so absurd. And then we're also looking at it causing and delaying children to have their rightful mental and emotional development, and also causing a burden into the healthcare system if it comes to treating this kind of anemia. But well, on the nutrition spot, we want to look at of how best we can have this kind of deficiency being corrected and help the children, help the women, help the men thrive and have the proper development milestones, especially in children. And with me on the show, like I said, I have Cynthia, a senior nutritionist, and Eddie, nutrition expert. I want to welcome them on board, but I'm going to start with Cynthia to, make us understand, being that she's a nutritionist, why is it important for us to come here and talk about nutrition and want you to understand why nutrition is important? So Cynthia, why are we talking nutrition in the first place?
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me, Gift. When I think of why is it important for people to understand or know what nutritional anemia is, I'll speak of the consequences which can negatively impact families, societies, and communities. And when we talk about children, if a child is not, if a child becomes anemic and it's not corrected in time, they usually develop cognitive impairments. This literally means that a child is not going to be able to learn to learn or connect with others, could be on a social or emotionally level, at the pace at which they're supposed to.
So that is in children?
That is in children.
Okay.
So when we come to adults, of course in men, I'll speak about the men as well. Let me start with the men.
Was going to speak about the men.
Okay, I'll let him speak about the men. Let me talk about...
He'll speak about the women.
Yes,
okay.
Let me talk about women of reproductive age. When I'm speaking of a woman of reproductive age, this means that you're between the age of 15 to 49 years. The consequences usually include fetal and maternal death if anemia is uncorrected. So this is why it is very important for us to pay attention to nutritional anemia.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Like anemia happens to be a major health problem affecting more than 3.5 billion people in developing countries.
Yes.
Yeah. But then if we look beyond the developing countries, we have the global world. We want to understand, how is nutritional anemia affecting the globe?
Thank you, Gift. I would like, first of all, to welcome our viewers, whoever's tuning in, those on YouTube, those on Twitter, those on all the social media handles. I would like to welcome you because I feel that nutrition is really a big concern in the world, not just in Uganda, not just in Africa, even in developed countries, nutrition is a very big concern. And on such platforms where we came to discuss about how we can do things right in the nutrition way, I feel that we are moving a step further, even to economic development, just like she told us, because this just doesn't stop on our health. It goes ahead further and also affects our economy and all the other sectors that we work in.
True.
So just like Gift said, the global burden, yes, there is a really big global burden. Over 2 billion people in the world, according to the World Health Organization, are affected by this nutritional anemia. And just talking about the women, we have the pregnant women, they are actually very affected. Over 2/3 of all the pregnant women have at one point been affected by anemia. They don't even look at the women that are not pregnant, just their physiological status of being a woman. When you're a woman, there's that period which comes and you have to lose blood. So women are always losing this blood, and if you're not doing the right things, if you're not taking in the right diet, you'll find that they're going to become anemic. So there is a really big concern in the entire world. And on the global scene, we've seen anemia causing dire consequences to countries and to the world economy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we're having two words in one, that is nutritional, and then the anemia. Of course, now for me, if you mention anemia, I'll be like, okay, this person is talking of, I've lost a lot of blood, maybe they need to transfuse blood or something. But Cynthia, how can you explain to someone out there what nutritional anemia is?
Okay, nutritional anemia. Let me start with anemia. itself, the word, it essentially means that you have a reduced number of red blood cells or reduced hemoglobin, which carries, hemoglobin is what carries red blood cells in the body. But what makes it nutritional means that its cause is tied to a nutritional aspect, which this means that you're not taking in enough.
And that's why maybe you can say
Yeah.
we're feeding poorly. Just mention it.
Which
Yeah,
means
that's true.
poorly.
Yeah. Which means that you have inadequate intake of iron-rich foods. That's the beginning point, I would say. And then we'll touch on other aspects as we move forward. But essentially, if you're not taking in enough iron-rich foods, you're going to, we'll call that nutritional anemia. Yes.
Yeah, and in addition to that, even people who are taking in enough iron-rich foods,
Yes.
you'll find that someone is not taking in a diverse range of foods, because apart from iron, a person also needs B12, they need B6, they need vitamin C, in order for that iron to work well in the body.
So
Yeah.
for now, like
Yeah.
if you mention vitamin B, vitamin S, B12, all those kinds of vitamins, we can't go into the supermarket or into the markets and we mention, give us vitamin B. We can only get that maybe from a pharmacy, but someone out there would want to relate that if I walk in a supermarket or a market, which kinds of foods am I looking out for? But well, we're going to discuss all that in a discussion, but basically in this segment, we would want to just understand what nutrition anemia is. And like we said, it's a very, very big concern and a health burden onto us and the entire healthcare system. If you have any questions, we're streaming on our different social media platforms, that is YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So make it a point to go there. If you have any concerns, any questions, and post them into the comment section, we shall be glad. But also make it a point to like and follow. You can share with all your friends in your different social media platforms. We're talking of nutrition and anemia, and I think some of us now we're imagining a kinds of plates that if I'm eating, what am I eating? Is it only beans, portion, whatsoever it is? We're going to, understand everything if it comes to nutritional anemia.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Eddie. You're an expert in this nutrition thing, and sometimes if you speak of nutrition, we feel like it's far-fetched.
Yeah.
I feel like I want you to mention maybe food. There, I feel like I'll understand. Or for you, mention fruits, or you mention vegetables. But now, if you say nutrition, I feel like it's something that is broad. Maybe you can help us break it down. For some of us, just understand a balanced diet. But
Yeah.
so just
Yeah.
break down the nutrition part, only nutrition.
Yes, thank you, Gift, for pointing out that fact. Because actually, when people are going out to eat, maybe they're going to a restaurant or they're preparing their food at home, no one ever asks themselves that how much of a nutrient is in this food. People just look for convenient food. People look for tasty food. People look, even those that look for healthy food, no one goes beyond the extra mile to actually ask themselves, what is the nutritional composition of this food? And that's quite complex, but our role as nutritionists is to make this a simple thing for everyone. So ideally, I believe that, first of all, the very first concept that if anyone wants to follow, if anyone wants to put their nutrition right, is to have a very diverse range of foods. And by diverse, that I mean they are going to take in not only vegetables, but it's a whole range of foods. They have to take in the fruits, they have to take in the carbohydrates, the proteins, the green plants, the red plants, the yellow plants.
So you're mentioning all that, and then you want someone like me to have everything on one plate. Are you putting the costs at the back of your mind?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
I don't know.
actually, thank you for pointing out that, because ideally you'll find that in developing countries, that is where we are having a very big burden of nutrition. But when you come to think about it, these developing countries are the source of food in the world. These are the countries that feed the entire world. You'll find that Africa provides food for the entire world. So you come and ask yourself, how come that it's Africa having nutritional problems the most?
Yes.
So ideally, the thing is we have the foods, but sometimes we are not taking them in the right way or in the right amounts. Or even when we take them, there are certain factors that affect how that food is used in the body.
Maybe we can start from the right amount and then preparation. How about, what do you mean if you say, I think I'll go to Cynthia, the right amount and then this bit of preparation. But like I said, we are Africans, you know, as long as I get something and I feel like I'm satisfied, I don't care what kinds of nutrients it has. Maybe after I've visited the hospital and a nutritionist tells me that, you know what, you need to eat more posho, more rice or whatever, or vegetables and fruits. So help us understand that bit of the right
amount and preparation.
And preparation.
I'll start with amount. For starters, amount really depends on what stage of your life you're at. Babies require different amounts. Children require different amounts. Adolescents require different amounts. Adults require different amounts. Of course, with children, we look at nutrient dense. But in all aspects of life, we look at nutrient dense.
Yes.
But now when you look at children, they're experiencing spurt growth or rapid growth. So you'll find that they'll need to eat often, So you'll find that even in most cultures, people won't really pay attention to what kids are eating.
Definitely.
They'll be like, as long as, like the child is eating. Now when we transition to adulthood, when you clock the age of 25 or above 25, your metabolism starts to slow down. So that means now you have to pay attention to your, especially energy intake. Because if you're living a sedentary lifestyle, you're going to end up, gaining weight, then obesity, then we have the NCDs that come in. So amount really depends on what stage of your life you're at. It depends on presence of chronic illnesses. A lot of factors come into play. That's why it's very important to, when you're paying a visit to the hospital, also pass by the nutritionist to find out how you can eat better for where you're at. But we don't only stop at the surface level. Usually we also encourage people to do overall blood checks, do like a lipid profile, do
in Uganda.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes.
I feel like asking
Cynthia,
Ed when is the last time you did a lipid profile?
Yes, like
That's
do your HbA1c, which is going to show us how high your blood sugar is. Do your liver function test, do your renal test. Doesn't have to be all the time, once in a while. But also this can inform a decision. Because imagine someone, you'll get someone who will come to you and their image, what they're thinking is, I'm skinny. Yes, but now on testing their lipid profile, they have like high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and now imagine you're going to put someone like that on a high energy diet. So all these things come into play when we are talking about amounts.
But I believe we have better options that are not costly.
And when talking about amount, it's
a
actually two-way, because you'll find that when these kids are growing up, there are some parents that are going to focus on, let this child eat a lot. So you'll find they're giving them food and a cup of tea at the same time.
My child has appetite for this particular food.
And the parent is happy that the child is taking in a lot, but at the end of the day, taking in this cup of tea or cup of coffee at the same time with food is affecting the absorption.
And just to supplement on that, nutrition is really case-by-case basis. It's not one size fits all.
Let's stop there. As our viewers are trying to process that now, I know some of them are thinking, what did I eat for lunch? How did I feed my child? But let those questions keep like maybe running on a different social media platforms. You are watching Bethan TV and we're looking at the nutritional anemia here on the nutritional spot. We're going to get into a very quick short break and we shall come immediately after the break.
Proteins, fats, carbs. There's no question the foods we put into our bodies have a big impact on our health. But there's a lot of information out there about what you should and shouldn't eat. You may have lots of questions, such as, how do I make sure I eat enough fruits and vegetables? How much red meat is too much? What exactly is a serving? Let's get back to the basics. By following the My Plate guidelines, you don't have to figure these questions out on your own. You can start making healthier choices now. My Plate is an easy way to help fill your plate with the right foods in the right amounts with a focus on 5 food groups: vegetables, fruits, grains, protein, and dairy. Fruits and vegetables should make up half of your plate. They can be enjoyed fresh, frozen, canned, dried, raw, or cooked. Try to eat 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit per day and 2.5 to 3 cups of vegetables per day. 1 cup equals 1 large banana, or 8 large strawberries, or 12 baby carrots. You may need to eat more or less depending on your activity level. Check out part 2 of this video to learn how to use My Plate for grains, protein, and dairy. Proteins, fats, carbs. There's no
Thank you so much for watching Bethan TV, and you are watching the Nutritional Sport. My name is Giftina Kayinga, together with Cynthia, our senior nutritionist and a dietitian, and Eddie, our nutrition expert. You know, well, talking of nutrition, we can't do this alone without having a different partners. That is the Nutrition Rehabilitation Center, and then the Allied Nutritionist Professional Council. So the entire body of the different nutritionists, well, it has come up, and then it's like, it's a big concern. We need to educate our Ugandans about the health consequences if they do not have their nutrition checked. So we're checking how you're eating, we're checking how you're feeding, how you're drinking, and all that. So, well, I've seen people are having so many questions. Please keep those questions coming through in our other segment. We're going to be answering a number of questions. So those that are watching us on Facebook, those that are watching us on Twitter, those that are watching us on YouTube, wherever the different platform you are using, put your comments into the comment section. We're going to make sure that we answer all your questions. Well, we cannot talk about the nutritional anemia without understanding what could be the possible causes, and, well, how do I get to understand that I'm starting to having this kind of anemia or this kind of deficiency? Directly, I'll go to Eddie to take us through what could be some of the possible causes for someone like me to end up with nutrition anemia.
Thank you, Gift. So when you're talking about nutrition anemia, this is anemia that is attributed to nutritional factors. And these can include dietary intake, it can include absorption. And when we talk about dietary intake, we refer to the foods that the person is consuming, not just in one day, but over a range of period, a whole long period. So
Measure the period, because now I'm thinking.
How long?
Now let's look, for example, at babies. When babies are born, ideally they're supposed to be breastfeeding, but after 6 months, we expect that you're supposed to bring in other foods to supplement the breast milk. So we usually find that at 9 months, babies, that's the time when babies start to get anemic. So these babies are born with enough iron stores in their body, but even the breast milk, a time reaches when there's not enough iron in the breast milk, and even the iron stores in their bodies are not enough. So as time goes on, you'll find that these children really need another source of iron, and those are the foods that we're giving these children while we're doing the weaning. And ideally, we've seen that babies who are introduced to cow's milk earlier in life are likely to face anemia. So that's one big cause of anemia in these children. So ideally, this cow's milk, it's not a very good food for babies because there is a way it irritates the intestines. So in that, they could have some blood loss in the intestine because of this irritation. And apart from that, the breast milk also, the cow's milk has there's how it affects absorption of nutrients in the body. So if this child is taking the breast milk, and again the mother is adding on the cow's milk, ideally it's not a very good thing because the absorption is going to be affected. So
I think Cynthia should, being that she's a woman or maybe a mother, because now looking at this era and age whereby people have to work, and now someone is just given birth and then they have to start working to earn a living. How best can they make sure that their child is properly fed?
Okay. I'll speak in context of what you said, like a busy working modern woman. Okay, time has come, you need to go back to work. One, we usually, of course, always encourage, as a nutritionist, we always encourage women to breastfeed. And if you cannot, I feel like in this day, age, and era, there are so many resources that can help you. So my advice would be express. You'll find there are bags that are sold where you can, that milk can be refrigerated or even frozen. Of course, please have a trusted caretaker at home to look after the child, express that milk and keep it, and then when you come back, you can always breastfeed.
True,
Like he said, cow's milk is not really a good viable option for infants because the iron stores are low and all other nutritional composition does not really is not fit for a child. But also you find if you can afford, if you can afford, you can do formula, because usually formulas are also, they try to match up to the composition of breast milk. So if you can afford, you can do. But also a mother needs to understand at 6 months of age, how do I feed my child to make sure that they are getting the necessary complementary foods to suit this new stage of growth. You'll find that in most mothers I've spoken to, in my experience, you'll find that they'll give mashed Irish and the egg, like that. So you need to try. I always encourage mothers, always start with the vegetables. Because once you get a child used to this other food, it's hard for them to transition. Start with pureed foods. You can start with maybe carrot juice, give them... Okay, the dark green leafy vegetables are a bit of a gray area because of the taste. Opt for fruits and vegetables. Start to give them mangoes, things they can bite on, pawpaws, watermelon, because like what we're saying, most of the fruits and vegetables especially contain the B complex vitamins that help in the production of red blood cells and also iron as well. Yes.
I think, Eddie, you mentioned when you were saying that like women that are in who do monthly periods, menstruating women or girls. And I'm thinking, could it be also a cause of that deficiency in those girls or women?
Yeah, that's actually a cause of anemia. Because when these women are losing a lot of blood over a long period of time and they're not having enough replacement through diet, that can be a very big cause of anemia, especially in the girls that are in school. You'll find that they're on a regular diet, they're taking in the same food every day, and they're not having a chance to have a diversified diet. So you'll find that actually I want to thank some of the policies that have been put in place to give iron supplements to these girls who are in schools and they cannot access the foods from home or from wherever they are. Because ideally you'll find that most of these girls, when they are facing these problems, they cannot relate that this could actually be a cause of anemia in the long run. And even when they go for medication, no one ever suspects that this could end up like this. And one thing about anemia is that people only discover that they're anemic after it has come to the extremes, because the beginning signs and symptoms are really not specific. You cannot, they're not really conclusive.
To anemia.
Yeah. And I also want to thank Cynthia for pointing out the fact that when she talked about the mothers and how they should express the milk, you find that there are some companies that have put in place safe places for breastfeeding. And I think that's a very big move for our country, because we used to see this in countries abroad, but now even here, we've seen companies that are implementing that, and I think that's a very good intervention.
It would be good if it's a policy that is.
Yeah, actually it would even be better if it became a policy or something like a law. And you'll find that even when parents, when they decide to prepare maybe like cereal for the babies, if a parent actually decides to use this breast milk to prepare that cereal after the child is above the 6 months, the breast milk is a better option compared to the cow's milk or any other option.
True.
I'll go still to Cynthia. I think he's doing a lot of children and you're doing women.
Okay.
I've heard of many women who would tell you, I don't like the folic acid. I feel like the taste is weird and I can't stand the taste.
Okay.
Like every time I try to take the folic acid, it's causing me nausea. It's causing ABCD. So some of them completely, and also they forego the folic acid. Okay. So what could be your take on this, and how does it affect the mother and the baby?
All right. When a woman is pregnant, you have to bear in mind that you are carrying someone else, and there's generally on a large scale there's increased physiological needs or increased needs in the body. So it's important that women out there understand what's going to happen if you fail to take your folic acid. There's a reason as to why they are giving it to you. Because we have so many mothers dying at birth because they are anemic, or if there's like the entire process of childbirth involves, it will involve blood loss. So if that time finds you with already low iron stores or low blood volume, you know, what's going to happen?
And
What's
even,
going to happen if there is not someone of your blood group to, you know, to give you blood that can be transfused to you at that time? And also for the child, of course, there's fetal death, of course, but we also have conditions like spina bifida that arise because a mother simply wasn't taking their folic acid. And it's really sad because this is a very preventable issue.
It's
Yes.
quite
On top of the folic acid that you're taking, it's important that even then you are taking as much as you can through your diet.
As much as you can through your
true.
diet.
Yes.
And
I
just
think
like
I
just
put out of emphasis on the diet things too.
Yeah.
I feel like we misinterpret the diet thing.
Okay.
Yes, because now some of us would be like, people that have this kind of weight are the ones that are supposed to be on diet. People that are maybe in this kind of conditions are the ones that are supposed to be on diet. And then we're like, even basically the conditions at which we're living in Uganda do not favor us to have those things of diet, therefore.
Yeah.
Maybe people in other countries. So what would you have to say about that?
First of all, there is a very big misconception about dieting. Just the way the media portrays it, the way that people talk about it.
Yeah.
Because when someone mentions dieting, people think that this person is on a very strict procedure. They're only taking this and only taking this. And it seems a very complex thing. Whenever someone says that I'm on a diet, people get the impression that maybe this person is only taking specific foods, is wanting to cut weight, is doing this. But actually dieting to me, it's just baby steps. You take baby steps. You just change one thing at a time. It's a gradual process. So ideally, for example, you could just take a step, maybe say that I'm not going to take coffee at the same time I'm taking food. And you just make that your first step. Now you're fighting the iron malabsorption. Yeah, and over time you can just keep on adding something, add something. Don't just make drastic changes in your diet, because at the end of the day you won't be able to cope up with those drastic changes. So the best thing when it comes to dieting is I always advise people that don't do something that will seem extreme to you, or that's something that you feel that is going to bring about a big change in your life, because you'll find that someone has been on a specific diet for all their lives, and now just because they told them they're having this condition, so they just want to break it down and start something new. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we are about to get into a break, but like we said, that we're having societies that are often ignorant about the anemia's capability to cause permanent cognitive defects, and also denying children their right to full mental and emotional development. If you're denying your children a right to a proper developmental milestone, then it's on you as a parent and as a mother. So we want to educate each one of us that it's very possible that we can make sure that these kinds of deficiencies are dealt with at early and tender age. But also, I've had someone asking, why do we even have anemia in adults? I mean, do we even have anemia in men, as the nutrition anemia? So before we get into a break, I would want you to throw light on that. You've mentioned of the children, the pregnant women, the menstruating women. So how does it come about in men?
Yeah, so men are also susceptible to anemia if in case they are having, let me say, for example, I've seen so many men that complain about stomach ulcers. It's a very common problem nowadays. And you'll find that if someone is having really bad ulcers, they're always losing blood in their intestine. And this is something that goes, you'll never see the blood because it's in your intestine, you can't see what's there. But if someone is having ulcers on a daily basis, they're always losing blood. And if they're not having a replacement for that iron, eventually they're going to become anemic. And there are also other illnesses that people get and they affect their iron stores in the body. So ideally, I think anemia is a concern for everyone.
Everyone.
It's not just about the women, it's not just about the children. Anyone can be affected. And yeah.
Thank you
even the
so
men should
much,
be concerned.
Eddie.
Yeah.
So the viewers that are watching live on YouTube, those that are watching live on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, thank you so much. You are watching Bethan TV, and with our partners, the Allied Nutrition Professional Council, and then partnering with the Nutrition Rehabilitation Center. We want to thank you so much. I've had a number of questions, and if time allows, we're going to make sure that we go through your different questions. But I want to point out this particular question, then after we shall get into a very quick break. This person is asking of why, as in why is my belly growing big despite no pork, no alcohol? We're going to get into a break. We shall come back and make sure that is very sensitive. You are attacking people that are taking pork and alcohol. But we shall come back and look at how best you can be helped. Stay tuned in on Bethan TV.
This guide will talk about the importance of grains, protein, and dairy. Grains come in a variety of forms: breads, rice, pasta, and tortillas. 1/4 of your plate should be grains. Try to eat 5 to 7 ounces per day, with at least half of those grains being whole grain. 1 ounce equals 1 slice of bread, or 1 cup ready-to-eat cereal, or a 1/2 cup cooked rice or pasta. Protein comes from meat, poultry, fish, beans, soy, eggs, and nuts. Like grains, protein should fill up 1/4 of your plate. Depending on your age, gender, and activity level, adults need between 5 to 6 ounces of protein per day. 1 ounce equals 1/4 cup cooked beans, or 1 egg, or 1 tablespoon peanut butter. A small steak is actually about 4 ounces, almost a day's worth of protein. Dairy foods are skim or 1% milk, fat-free yogurt, and cheese. Aim for 3 cups of dairy per day. 1 cup equals 1 cup milk, that's skim or 1%, or soy, rice, or almond milk, or 1 8-ounce carton of yogurt, or 2 slices hard cheese. If you don't have measuring cups handy, that's not a problem. A fist equals 1 cup. The palm of your hand is about 3 ounces of meat. The 2 tips of your thumbs are a tablespoon. You may need to eat more or less depending on your activity level.
Thank you so much, everyone that is tuned in Bethan TV, and those that are watching us online. You're doing a very, very interesting job. I would want to read out a few names. Annette, thank you so much for watching, and Mayanja, Toby Ken, Sempija Kennedy, Kato Filmon, Barunji Monica, the Allied Nutritionist Association of Uganda, Kamara Daniel, Atugonza Kisembo, Nankonda Deborah, Carlos Bernard, Livingston Waswa, Matovu Abuna, yes, Abuna, then Bertram Brian, and then I name Baba's Vivian. Thank you so much. I'm having a number of people streaming. Thank you so much for making it a point, but make sure you also share with your friends. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell such that every time we are having these kinds of discussions on the Nutrition Spot on Bethan TV, you can be able to be a part of that discussion. Well, it's a lot of things that we can talk about if it comes to nutrition or anemia, and some of you are like, okay, now you've not emphasized the point of how do I tell that I have this kind of anemia? We're going to handle that bit, and we would also want to emphasize the point of the different health consequences that can come up with if you do not go to the hospital. I'm not saying go to the pharmacy. I'm saying go to the hospital and see a nutritionist. We should learn these things. So straight away, I'm going to go to Dan, to Eddie, to take us through what are some of those clinical manifestations, the signs that we didn't mention about, that can surface if either a man, a pregnant woman, a child has this kind of anemia.
So I'll start with the child. Usually in children, if they're the beginning signs that can tell you that this child is going to get anemia can include the child is irritable, if actually you see that the child is experiencing shortness of breath, if the child is is having paleness of the skin, of the lips, of the tongue. Those are the quite common causes of, that's the common signs of a child that is developing anemia. But in the long run, you'll find that this child is always tired, the child doesn't play, the child is always fatigued, they don't want to do anything. But none of these signs is conclusive, none of these signs can be a straightforward answer that this child is anemic. Yeah, the only way to actually find out that this child is anemic is to take them to the hospital for a test. They can do a CBC, they can check their hemoglobin concentration. Yeah, so ideally.
And also, if you mention of the child is irritable, the paleness of the skin, but it's some of these signs or some of these, okay, I would say the signs, we have them in other different conditions. So basically, maybe you can still emphasize on that. You're supposed at the end of the day to come to the hospital before they diagnose from their homes that my child is irritable, so that means basically that is nutrition anemia.
Yeah, that's quite true, because these signs and symptoms can also be experienced when these children are facing other illnesses, even like malaria. The child will be tired, the child will be weak. Even when they have pneumonia, they can face shortness of breath, but that does not mean that they are anemic. So actually, the only best way to actually conclude that the child is anemic is for you to take them to the hospital. They do a blood test, then they'll tell you that this child is anemic.
It's anemic.
Yeah.
Okay. Cynthia, what happens in
Adult.
Adults, okay. Women and men.
Okay, women and men, adults generally. They are sort of similar. So usually you'll have the symptoms, and anemia, nutritional anemia, will involve a number of body systems. For example, neurologically, you'll find that, like he said, you're feeling tired, you're feeling fatigued. Then also, you'll find that you're a bit restless, but some of the signs include something that we call angular stomatitis, means that you get wounds on the sides of your mouth.
So does it affect your immune system?
Yes, it does affect your immune system. So you'll be more susceptible to infections as well. So usually even when people get the wounds on there, they're like, oh, maybe it's malaria. So they are not really specific to anemia. But I think some of the things that an adult can look out for, even children as well, look at your eyelids. Look at the beds of your eyelids. They're supposed to be pink or dark pink. So if they are pale, that can be a warning sign. You look at your nail beds as well.
Some of us put on
You look at your palms as well.
Okay.
We also have something that we call, it's atrophy of the tongue, but it's not very specific, but you can always look. If your tongue has like a very shiny or glistening appearance, it could be a sign of anemia. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at all these things, your eyelids, your nail beds, even general paleness of the skin, do go and get a checkup. And also you're feeling fatigued, you're tired most of the time, because most patients come in with this and they think they have malaria or it's an infection, but it's just
That's really true, because you come to realize that whenever parents discover things like my child's eyes are pale, one parent will run to maybe a pharmacy and buy an iron supplement or buy something or any other medicine. But usually these iron supplements are also toxic, especially for children. You'll find that one of the biggest cause of poisoning in children has always been iron. Even when it is prescribed for adults, you are advised to keep it away from children because adults can actually metabolize this iron. But for children, especially the ones below 5, it's very hard for them to handle this iron when it's taken in high concentrations. So I advise parents out there, whenever you discover that maybe your child is anemic, don't just run to the store and buy an iron supplement or buy folic acid.
Self-medication.
Yeah, self-medication is really bad.
Thank you so much. I know time is not enough, and I see people that are on YouTube, they're like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, we can do this over and over and over. So someone is asking a question. Someone was asking, why is my belly growing big despite that I do not do pork or alcohol? I feel like we would want to handle this bit of what are some of the foods that are out there that can help us treat the nutritional anemia?
Okay.
But I feel like we should first answer him.
Because
yes,
he's
then we can
persistent.
go into the
Okay.
different foods.
All right.
So that is Kennedy Sempija.
Okay, Kennedy, it's not just alcohol and pork that make your belly grow fat. It, like I said, it will depend on what's your lifestyle. Are you seated most of the time? Are you doing some form of physical activity? Because in adulthood, your intake needs to be lower
True.
than your expenditure.
True.
You get, also, we need to look at your diet. Are you having enough fiber in your diet? Are you eating more calories?
True.
And by calories, most of the foods that we have on today's market are what we call empty calories, meaning that they only have calories. They don't come with anything else. The junk foods and the likes, all those are empty calories. But
Yeah.
also, even with our African diet, you'll find women who are not really eating chips and whatnot every day, but they're also gaining weight.
True.
Not even women, men as well. But that means on your plate, when you get your plate, you've put matoke, you've put a sweet potato, you've put a yam, you've put a pumpkin.
That is
You
big.
don't need all that because remember, your metabolism is already low. So we really need to look at the calorie content.
Okay.
So me, I usually tell people, I'll tell Kennedy in this case, look at the calorie content on your plate. Just leave carbohydrates, especially, to just one serving. Then have more vegetables and then the protein source.
There is a question for you, Cynthia, and this is Pamela is asking that how much iron do we need a day as adults? How much?
Okay. You need daily, RDA is about, correct me if I'm wrong here, Eddie,
Yeah.
is it about 20 milligrams?
Yeah, ideally
Yeah,
20
20 milligrams per day.
But you know, when you're trying to advise these people, no one is going to calculate how many milligrams are in the food. So actually,
We'll look at-
if you
we'll
can
look at
have
the
just
iron-rich
one,
foods.
if you can just have one serving of now for that, for them to understand those 20 milligrams, people can access blackstrap molasses, just one serving, a scoop that can give you enough iron for the day. If you can access spinach, 2 servings
Okay.
of
Exactly.
spinach will give you enough iron for the day. And ideally, the other foods that we can look at that are iron rich, we have liver, we have meat, and yeah, so I know when someone goes out in the restaurant, they're not going to know how many milligrams are there, but yeah.
I'll just add on to what Eddie has said. When we're looking at iron and intake, we have what we call absorbable iron and iron that is not readily bioavailable or readily absorbable in the body.
Yes.
So absorbable iron is liver, mostly animal protein, liver, kidney, fish, poultry, that's readily absorbable. But now that the one that's not readily absorbable, we find it mostly in dark green leafy vegetables. So as you're taking these iron-rich foods, also have a vitamin C-rich food to enhance the absorption of iron as
Thank
well.
you so much. I think I personally have a concern if it comes to people that have HIV, either our children or adults. And
Yeah.
how would you advise them if it comes to how their plate is supposed to look like? Because I believe anemia can still manifest
Manifest
in them.
in
And also,
HIV.
like you mentioned, there are other different conditions that can also trigger this kind of anemia. And being that in a setting, we do not know if I'm having this particular condition, this is what I'm supposed to eat, and this is not what I'm supposed to eat.
Okay, if you are HIV positive, generally, we always recommend a balanced meal on a day-to-day basis. And usually, I know it's hard to achieve because we talk about these things, but the reality is, when it comes down to economics, money, and even social status in homes, it's hard to achieve these things. But I always tell people, and my patients as well, aim to, at least in a day, have you had a serving of a vegetable? Have you had a serving of a fruit? Look at it that way. Then you can slowly, gradually evolve to Lunch, at least I have this, and then dinner, I've had a fruit and I've had a serving. So it's you cultivate the discipline. It's being intentional.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think we're advocating for behavior change.
Yes, yes, it's a
I'll
lot
go
of
to
innovation.
Eddie. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
and I think another way people can actually, if you've been diagnosed with anemia, one other thing you can try to mind about is the fiber intake. Fiber is very good, but you should
If you say
mind.
fiber, can you break it down for
So
us?
fiber are foods like cabbages, the
Okay.
foods that are actually rough. You can look at the vegetables, the greens. Those are foods that have a lot of fiber. So if you're anemic and you're trying to replace your iron, maybe if you take the meat, you shouldn't take it at the very same time you're taking this cabbage, because the fiber is going to prevent the absorption of the iron. And also the other foods that can prevent iron absorption include the oxalates. Oxalates are usually in teas, in coffees. Yeah, so
Even milk as
yeah,
well.
even milk. Yeah.
Thank you. Then there is also, I would now go, being that we're talking of nutrition or anemia in children and in adults. For the adults, I would want to look at these people that are in advanced ages, like old age.
Okay.
He mentioned of the malabsorption syndrome, like some of these people, their absorption is poor if it comes
Yeah.
to these kinds of nutrients. So how would you advise, like, especially someone that is old, maybe they're in their late 70s, 60s, maybe and above, and they have that kind of condition?
Yeah, so for the adults, for the elderly, one thing I would advise is that they should actually, when they're going to take their foods, they should be very cautious. For example, if they're intending to take in iron, they should actually have another, for example, they can have juice. Juice is rich in vitamin C. So
Orange
that vitamin,
juice.
that orange juice will help you with the absorption in the body. And they should also avoid these other foods, the coffees. For example, if they're having their main meal of the day, they should make, if they want to take coffee, they can take it maybe like 2 hours before they're taking the main meal of the day. That will not affect their
Actually,
absorption.
when you
Yeah.
talked about taking tea with food, I realized it's a very common practice here. A lot of people
You
take
mean
tea.
here where we are? The country?
Here in Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah, here in
Maybe.
Uganda or in Kampala or in our communities.
Yes,
People
true.
always take tea with food, but you're not realizing that you might have the iron-rich foods, but now the tannins in the tea are preventing its absorption.
It's absorption.
Yeah.
Okay, still we have people that are watching us probably on Facebook, those that are on Twitter, and those that are on YouTube. This is Bethan TV, and on our different social media platforms, we are Bethan Television. So you go and then look for Bethan Television. And also, I believe there are those that are watching on a different channel, that is the Allied Nutrition Center. I want to thank so much the Allied Nutritionist Professional Council and also the Nutrition Rehabilitation Center for making this happen now. So being that we're having, like we started saying that we have a very big global burden if it comes to nutritional deficiencies, and we're here to make sure that we get you all the information that you need, and maybe if you go back to your communities and the different societies, you can make an impact, you can make a change, maybe from your home or starting at individual level, you can make a change, thinking of how am I supposed to eat. And we mentioned about the preparation part of it, and as we're trying to wind up the session, I'll go to Cynthia to take us through. We've gotten many challenges of how we are supposed to prepare particular foods, such that we still get those particular nutrients that we're supposed to get in those foods.
All right. I'll start with especially the vegetables and fruits, because they're very delicate and they contain most of the nutrients that we want. When it comes to preparation of vegetables, I see people have a habit of soaking vegetables. Now, when you soak, you are leaching out most of the nutrients there. Always, when you go to the market to buy, let's start with where you're getting them from. When you go to the market to buy, always look out for fresh vegetables. Yeah? You can always see the fresh ones from the ones that are a bit damaged and scarred. So when you take them home, wash under running water and either steam, boil, or stir fry for about 5 minutes. 5 minutes is enough. Same thing with fruits. Don't refrigerate them for too long. Preparation should be don't even expose them in air for so long, because now they're also losing. They're not supposed to be exposed in air for so long. They're not supposed to be soaked in water. Wash under running water and cook for about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. At least I believe that if any of us is going to forget whatever we've said tonight, they are not going to forget of how to prepare the vegetables and also maybe the fruits. Our time is running so fast and we cannot go beyond this. But maybe we can encourage you to make sure that every single Thursday you are tuned in Bethan Television and you are watching live on our different social media platforms to learn more about how best we can boost our immunity through taking the right nutrients at the right time. Well, I can't go any further, but I want to thank so much Eddie, our nutrition expert, and then I would want to thank so much Cynthia for coming through. She's a senior nutritionist and a dietitian, you know that those things are not easy. But thank you so much for coming through, and we want to thank so much our different partners, that is the Allied Nutritionist Professional Council in partnership with the Nutrition Rehabilitation Center and Bethan TV. Thank you so much. So till next time, we want to wish you the best of the time as you take care of your nutrition.